The next is Wayne Bridge oscillator. Yesterday we have discussed about the RC phase shift oscillator. Today we are going to discuss about Wayne Bridge oscillator. So in the RC phase shift oscillator, we had a few drawbacks. That is with respect to the feedback network, where for every different frequencies we need to keep on changing R and C values, and all the R and C values should be identical. If any of the R and C values are not identical, then again it will be a problem for tuning it to particular frequency as well as to tuning it to 360 degree or 0 degree, because according to Barkhuizen criterion it should be 360 degree or 0 degree the phase difference. So that if that is not achieved, automatically we'll be not getting any sustained oscillation. So that was the some of the drawbacks. So in order to overcome those drawbacks, we are using Wayne Bridge oscillator. So in the Wayne Bridge oscillator, as the name is known as bridge. See, Wayne Bridge. So you might have already studied the bridge circuit in your PU or 12th. So where you'll be having some ABCD resistance bridge and all. The same kind of bridge circuit is used here, and the output of and the across two points of this bridge is taken as input to the op amp. So one input is given to the inverting terminal, another input is given to the non-inverting terminal. So here we are having R2 C2 R1 C1. So based upon these two the resistance and capacitance, you can tune particular frequency of desired signal. So this is the op-amp based Wayne Bridge oscillator, but in exam you'll be asked to explain this one. This is what you have to explain in exam. This is just for simplified approach to understand how actually it will be. Even though we'll be using this kind of circuit in real time, but this is a discrete circuit which we have to discuss in exam. In exam, you have to write this one. Circuit even though it looks complex, if you understand, it is simple. See this part, whatever we have this part, this is one voltage divider bias circuit. So as the same circuit what we had in RC phase shift, the same circuit we have here also. This is one RC phase shift circuit, sorry, the voltage divider circuit, and this is one more voltage divider circuit. Okay, two voltage divider circuit you have. The output of one is connected to as input to the next one. See, from the collector we are taking the output and it is fed as input to the next voltage divider circuit, and from the output of the second collector circuit, the voltage divider circuit, across the collector the output is being taken. Here the combination of these two voltage divider bias are are used for producing the phase shift. See, here we are not depending upon any other external resistances or capacitance to produce the phase shift, because we have already seen in the RC phase shift oscillator. See, one of the drawback was the RC network. In the RC network, RC, all the RC pairs should be matched properly. If the RC values are not matching during that time, we would have not got the proper phase. That means if one is going to get 58, other one is going to get 50, other one is going to get 60, the total phase shift which is produced by the RC phase shift will not be equal to 180 degree, because overall we should get 180 from the amplifier, 180 from the feedback network. If R and C values are not matching and they are not able to produce 60 degree exactly, then the Barkhuizen criteria is not going to match. So in order to avoid that problem, what they did is they took two voltage divider circuit, where each voltage divider circuit is going to act as an amplifier. And again, you have to mark the arrow marks here. Put one arrow mark here, one arrow mark here. So this is in CE configuration. Again, in CE configuration, as we know that in CE configuration only we'll be using the transistor as an amplifier. So here we are using voltage divider circuit. Since it is in CE configuration, this is going to produce 180 degree. This is going to produce 180 degree. So totally by these two amplifier, it is going to produce totally 360 degree phase shift. So our criteria was, one of the criteria was to produce total phase shift should be 360 degree. So total phase shift is produced. So 360 degrees produced. Now our other requirement from the feedback network is, see, one requirement was it has to produce 180 degree. But now we are already ready with extra 180 degree because we are connecting two amplifiers back to back. And this capacitor, this capacitor, this capacitor. See, these capacitors are known as coupling capacitors. Okay, so the use of this coupling capacitors are, say this is coupling capacitor which is used to couple any two amplifiers or to couple a circuit with any other circuit. See here, this is one circuit. It is been connected to this one. So while connecting, in between we are using this one. So that's why it is known as coupling capacitor. So while coupling any two circuits, we are going to use this capacitor. That's why the name coupling capacitor. Here also, the output of this is fed as input to this. So that's why the name coupling capacitor. Here also, output of this is fed as input to this circuit. That's why the coupling capacitor. Now the question is why we need this coupling capacitor. So basically what happens is, here we are, our interest our interest is to generate a sinusoidal wave or AC signal, because we are designing a signal for particular frequency means obviously it is a sinusoidal signal. It is an AC signal only, because it is having frequency means obviously it is a AC signal. So when you are having AC signal and the output of this one as fed as input to this, it is going to amplify, and the output of this is fed as input to this. Meanwhile, you can observe we are using plus VCC here. So there might be a chance of adding up of this plus VCC with the AC signal which is coming out. We are interested to get an sinusoidal signal. Sinusoidal signal means AC signal. We are interested to get only that sinusoidal AC signal, but because of the usage of this plus VCC and this ground minus VE, so you know that this plus VCC and minus VE is DC supply. So if DC signal is getting added up to this AC signal, then the output which is given out will be a mixture of AC and DC. But our intention is to just only to get AC signal. So we use this capacitor. As we know, one of the characteristics of the capacitor is it is going to block DC and allow AC, because it is going to act as short circuit for AC signal, and it is going to act as open circuit for DC signal. Open circuit in the sense the capacitor utilizes that DC signal to charge itself, and whenever AC signal is given, it is going to act as short circuit. Short circuit in the sense it is going to allow the signal to pass through it just like a wire. So by this, what we are going to do is the output of this one, which is fed as input to the next amplifier, will be a pure AC, and this amplifier is going to amplify that pure AC signal and give out. Again, there is a plus VC connection here. There might be a chance of mixing of DC to this signal. So again, we are going to filter out that, and we are going to give it to this circuit. So this is overall, these two are amplifier circuit, which are mainly utilized for the purpose of giving 360 degree phase shift. It is known as two-stage CE amplifier with 360 degree phase shift. So after that, the next part of the circuit is frequency selective network. So in the frequency selective network, what we are going to do is we are going to have two RC pairs, RC, but the connection of these RC pairs are in such a way that one pair is parallel to each other, other pair are in series, but they are series to each other. So this R and C, they're parallel to each other, this RC, they're series to each other, but when I take this RC with respect to this RC, they're in series. Okay, they're in series. So by properly tuning this, we are going to get the desired frequency. So whatever the frequency you want, you have to just tune this values. So in our previous thing, so the problem was if you're trying to tune RNC values, you have to tune all the RNC values. All the RNC has to match. So the problem was, suppose you are getting exact frequency also, there might be a chance of getting different phase. So we had to manage both the things, the phase as well as the frequency, both has to be managed. But here the phase, we don't need to worry about the phase because the phase is 360 degrees only, is taken care by the two-stage amplifier circuit. So here we need to just worry about the frequency. Whatever frequency you want, just tune R and C value to that level. So automatically to that frequency level, you'll be getting tuned. So here only this is responsible for selecting a frequency. That's why it is known as frequency selective network. So here again this capacitor is known as coupling capacitor to just avoid any noise or any DC signal that is getting added up. So this is the feedback we are giving, okay, and this is the output. From the output till here, this is the feedback we are giving. So in the transistorized phase shift oscillator, the overview is this is going to produce 360-degree phase shift, and this is going to produce the frequency required. So by properly designing R and C values, we are able to produce desired frequency. The capacity of this frequency network is it can design in the range of frequency from 20 hertz to 200 kilohertz only with lower distortion. So distortion is quite less here. Why the distortion is less here is because we don't have too many number of resistance and capacitors or identical resistance and capacitors used here as it was used in the previous circuit. Such type of connections we don't have here. So obviously they'll be having lower distortion, and the range is 20 hertz to 200 kilohertz. So the formula here is, so if you are going to use this circuit, if you are going to use this circuit, then the balancing equation will be R3 by R4 is equal to R1 by R2 plus C2 by C1. But here, as I told, our study in this chapter is mainly based upon transistorized Wien bridge oscillator. So obviously we have to concentrate on this circuit. For this circuit, the formula is 1 divided by 2 pi root of R1 C1 R2 C2. What is this R1 C1? R1 C1 is this R1 C1 R2 C2. So we have to consider this one. Suppose all R1 and R2 are same and C1 and C2 are same, then our equation will be 1 divided by 2 pi RC. Okay, so this is our equation we are having. Suppose R1 and R2 are different value, then you have to use this equation. Always we might not use this condition where R1 is equal to R2 is equal to R, where C1 is equal to C2 is equal to C. So this condition might not be used always. So rarely we might use this one. So it is better to remember this equation 1 divided by 2 pi root R1 C1 R2 C2. So this is with respect to this. This equation shows that the output frequency or frequency of oscillation is mainly dependent upon the values of frequency selective network. Whatever the resistance and capacitance you have used in frequency selective network, based upon those components, the frequency is going to be dependent. So now after that we are having derivation. The derivation is very important. So they'll be asking the derivation along with the explanation. Derivation is important. So you have to just concentrate more on this derivation. It's quite different because here we'll be using imaginary terms. All those things will be using it. So let us see. So here in the derivation, our main concern will be with respect to the frequency selective network only, because the derivation is for frequency of oscillation for Wien bridge oscillator. Okay, our derivation is for frequency of oscillation for Wien bridge oscillator. So that's why we are going to use, we are going to design for, we are going to apply our equations for the frequency selective network. So here the first step is to find the impedance of the frequency selective network. Impedance means how much total resistance is offered by this frequency selective network. Now the question is why we are bothered about this entire resistance. See here, the output which is given out by the amplifier is across this point. At this point, we are taking the output, and the other point is obviously the ground. This entire thing is ground. So we know that output voltage is always taken with respect to positive, and other one is with respect to the ground. So now this is V1, and this is the voltage which we are going to feed it to this frequency selective network. Now, by properly choosing R and C values, the voltage or a signal, whatever we are getting here, that will be tuned to desired frequency by just adjusting these values. But you can see here, the output is taken between this RC and this RC. That means the output is taken from this point. See, the output is taken from this point means it is understood that, so whatever the voltage you have at this point, that will be your feedback voltage which is given to the first amplifier. So now we have to understand whether the voltage across this will be fed as input, the feedback, or the voltage across this will be fed as input. Let us see. If I'm going to consider this as some V2, this voltage as V2, let us analyze what will be the voltage across this. Say voltage across this component means what is, how we are going to find usually, it is the difference between the terminals. At this point, what we have V1. At this point, what we have V2. So if we are asked with the voltage across this, the voltage drop across this, then the voltage drop across this R1C1 will be V1 minus V2. Come back to this second part of the circuit. Here you just analyze, if the voltage across this one is asked, then again we have to take the difference between this point and the other point. We will see this point is what? V2. The other point is what? Ground. So ground means the voltage will be 0. V2 minus 0 is V2. So from this we understood that the voltage what we are giving here is the voltage which we are getting across this one, this RC value, not the voltage across which is coming across this RC value. So now we have to find out what is that voltage we are having across this RC. Now when you connect, when you are going to connect a feedback like this, when you are going to connect a feedback like this, see now initially I was telling they are in series, this RC and this RC, they are in series. Okay, but when you connect this terminal, automatically what they will become? Can anyone tell me? When I connect this terminal, this wire as a feedback,
Parallel.
parallel. Can you tell me why it is parallel now and why it was series before?
So because terminal is connected in between the both, so it becomes parallel now.
Previously, why they were series?
Because that time nothing was connected across them.
So during that time, this RC was continuous with this RC. They might be parallel to each other, but when it was considered with respect to this, it was in series. These two were series to each other, but when we consider with respect to this, they were in series. But when we connect this one, now it created a junction. It is going to create a junction. So now they are parallel to each other. So in order to find the voltage across a particular branch, see this, now our intention is to find the voltage across this branch. In order to find the voltage across a particular branch, we have a rule which I have told many times. Can anyone tell me which is that rule? If you want to find a voltage across a particular branch in a parallel branches,
Voltage divider rule.
yeah, voltage divider rule. So now, in order to find in order to find the voltage across this branch, so what we have to do here is we have to find, we know that the voltage divider formula is main voltage into resistance, where we are interested to find the voltage, divided by sum of total resistances. Okay, so sum of total resistance means obviously this entire thing will come. This entire thing has to be considered to find the sum of the resistances. So that's why what we have to do is, before applying voltage divider rule to get the voltage across this one, what we have to do is, first we have to find what is the total resistance offered by this branch. So in order to find the total resistance offered by this branch, we have to find Z. Z indicates the total impedance of the frequency selective network. So that's why we have taken this one. So how they are connected? Leave out this connection now. So when we are considering only these two, and when we take the lower part of the voltage divider rule formula, it is sum of the total resistance. Sum of the total resistance means the resistance offered by this plus resistance offered by this. Okay, so when you when this one is C1, this is R1, this is R2, this is C2. So now when you are going to consider the resistance of this, you can directly take it as R1. But when you consider the resistance of capacitor, what you have to write? You have to write it in terms of minus jXC1. So we have to represent it in terms of reactance. So R minus jXC. Okay, R minus jXC we have taken, and here in this case we have assumed that R1 is equal to R2, C1 is equal to C2. We have assumed like that. So all capacitor and resistors values are same. So R, this is R minus jXC. So we will be taking the reactances minus jXC. So we have taken minus jXC. After that, these two are parallel. So we have to apply parallel combination formula. So when any two resistance are parallel, we have the formula R1 R2 by R1 plus R2. So now R into minus jXC, which is the reactance of this, divided by R minus jXC. R minus jXC. So we have taken the total impedance. After that, we have to just simplify this. R minus jXC whole square minus jRXC. We are taking it. So after that, we are we came to know what is the total resistance we are having. This is the total impedance. This is the total impedance we are having, which is produced by this one. Now we'll apply voltage divider rule, because our intention is to find V2. V2 means what? The voltage across this network, only this network. So we'll write the equation for that. So the equation is V2 is equal to main voltage. Main voltage is what? V1. V1 is the main voltage which is supplied to the network, into the resistance where you want to find. So where I want to find the voltage, I want to find the voltage across these two. So how they are connected? They are connected parallel. So R parallel the capacitor, divided by sum of the total resistance. Sum of the total resistance is Z, which we have already found. Z we have found. So R parallel minus jXC divided by Z. So that is the reason why we first found Z. After that, we shift V1 on this side. Afterwards, we are just going to substitute the value for Z, whatever we have found, and we will be keep on simplifying it. This R minus jXC, this R minus jXC gets cancelled, and this we are going to expand it, and later on, wherever you are having minus j, you will be replacing it by 1 by j, and here also whatever you are, wherever you are having minus j, you replace it by 1 by j, and you'll arrive with this equation rxc by the 3 rxc plus j into r square minus x square. Now there is a condition if V1 and V2 are said to be in phase. That means the signal whatever we are getting here and the signal whatever we are getting here are said to be in phase. Yes, obviously they have to be in phase because this is the voltage we are getting at the output, and this is the voltage what we are feeding at the input. So according to the Barkanson criterion, the total phase shift should be 360 degree or 0 degree, means obviously the output and the input should be in phase. So then only you are able to produce oscillation. So now if V1 and V2 are said to be in phase, then there is a condition which tells that if two voltages V1 and V2 are said to be in phase, then the imaginary part of the denominator must be 0. That is the condition. So this is the imaginary part we are having. This is the imaginary part we are having. So the lower part, this is the imaginary part we are having. So if you are going to tell V1 and V2 are in phase, then this imaginary part should tend to 0. That means it should become 0. So we take r square minus x square is equal to 0. This part we are going to take it as 0. So now we'll get x is equal to r. And you know that x is equal to omega c is equal to r. So omega, you know that it is 2 pi f. So f is equal to 1 divided by 2 pi rc. So this is how we derive the equation. This is the equation for the frequency of oscillation of Wien-Bridge oscillator. So this is the equation on considering R1, C1, so R1, R2, C1, C2 are same. Okay, R1, R2, C1, C2 are same. But if it is different, then we have to take root of R1, R2, C1, C2. So there is one more thing that you should understand. How we got how that R1 divided by 2 pi root of R1, R2, C1, C2 immediately got turned to 2 pi RC. See, if R1, R2 is equal to R, C1, C2 is equal to C, then what does the equation becomes? The equation becomes 1 divided by 2 pi root of R square into C square. So since it is having square, the root and square get cancelled and the remaining term will be 1 divided by 2 pi RC. After considering the imaginary part as 0, the remaining term we have to consider. So this is 0 means Rxc by 3 Rxc. So remaining part V2 by V1 is equal to Rxc by 3 Rxc. Rxc gets cancelled and we get V2 by V1 is equal to 1 by 3. So V2 is equal to V1 by 3. This indicates that we can conclude that there is sufficient feedback voltage and attenuation is not as high as in phase shift oscillator. In phase shift, RC phase shift oscillator, what was happening is here among see 1 by 3rd of output is fed as input. Say V2 is the input which is fed. So 1 by 3rd of V1 is fed as input. But in RC phase shift oscillator, because of attenuation, there was no sufficient output voltage to get sampled and fed as input. Because of that, sometimes we will be getting distortions at the output. But here, since it is having sufficient feedback, see here it is telling 1 by 3rd of the output is fed as input. So this indicates there is sufficient voltage to feed as input and attenuation is not going to happen to a larger extent. Attenuation means reduction in the strength of the signal. Meaning of attenuation means reduction in the strength of the signal. Strength means amplitude. So if you are reducing the amplitude level, then it is known as attenuation. So if you are increasing the level of the amplitude means we tell it as gain. Gain and attenuation are inverse to each other. After this, based on these equations, we are having some problems. You can just go through the problems, whatever I have given in the book, and even in the app also I have given some problems. So if you're done with this problem, it's more than sufficient. Not only this chapter, the entire all the modules, if you're done with those problems, it is more than sufficient. You'll be getting within that only. The problems will be getting within that only. Now coming to this, find the capacitor C and HFE for the transistor to provide a resonating frequency of 10 kilohertz of a transistor as phase shift oscillator. Assume R1, R2, RC. So they have given R value, they have given R dash value, they have given. HFE means, don't get confused, HFE is nothing but beta. Beta means current gain. Okay, HFE is the other way of representing the current gain of a transistor. I was telling on the other day the H parameters we analyze by using H parameters and all. So in H parameters, they represent instead of beta by using instead of using that beta symbol, they use this HFE. HFE is nothing but beta. If you have textbook, please mark there only. HFE means beta. Don't get confused in the exam. Here, if this is asked, so you have to remember one equation. This is the equation you should remember. HFE greater than or equal to 4K plus 2. Please mute. Please mute. HFE greater than or equal to 4K plus 23 plus 29 by K. This is one formula you have to remember. You don't have derivations for this, but you have to remember this. See, what is the importance of this formula is, it has been told that if the beta value, whatever we are having, the gain, current gain, whatever we are having, if the current gain is greater than or equal to whatever we get from this equation, then only you are able to produce sustained oscillation. Then only you are able to produce sustained oscillation. If the current gain of a transistor, let us take we take a transistor and the shopkeeper tells the gain of this transistor is 40. That means HF is 40, and by calculation of the circuit, we'll come to know that the required gain is 44. Minimum required gain is 44.56. But the gain of the gain of the transistor what we have bought is only 40. That means in that condition, you're not going to get sustained oscillation, because this is the minimum requirement. Your gain of the transistor should be greater than this. Then only you are going to get oscillations. Otherwise, you are not going to get oscillation. So this is just, they'll ask like this, check whether the given transistor with its parameters or with its resistor values is able to produce oscillation or not. Even they'll give you HFE value also, they'll give you. Okay, they'll tell a transistor is 100, is having HFE value is 100. Check whether this circuit is able to produce oscillation or not. Then what you have to do is you have to use this equation, and the formula for K is RC by R. RC means resistance across the collector. R means resistance of the feedback network. That is, as we are talking about RC phase shift oscillator, the resistance across the feedback, that resistance. RC by R you substitute, whatever the value you will get, that is the value of K. After that you substitute K value and you'll get the value, and compare those two. If this condition satisfies, then you can tell this given circuit produces oscillation. Otherwise, the circuit is not going to produce any oscillation. Okay, so that is one thing I wanted to tell. So coming back to this, here they are asking, find the capacitor C and HFE for the transistor to provide a resonating frequency. All those things they have asked. So here R dash means the third pair of RC. While in circuit I was explaining, to balance the load, we are having one resistors in series with the amplifier circuit, that is R dash. Okay, so actually this part, from starting from this part to this part is extra thing I have given. So just to understand, suppose if they're asking you total input impedance, they're asking, say after adding up this resistance to the amplifier, what is the total input impedance you are getting? Then you have to find out this way. So it is not required because in this question it is not asked. But in the exam, if they ask you, you should have this idea. If they're asking what is the total input impedance when, in order to avoid the loading effect, one of the pair of the RC is connected in series, then you have to find all of them are parallel. R1, R2 is already there, which is parallel from the voltage divider circuit. R dash is the one which you are giving in series. From the in the RC pair, one of the R value is connected in series. Even though it is connected in series, since R1, R2 are in parallel, automatically this also will be acting as parallel. So now the total input impedance will be this much, 1.63 kilo ohm. Okay, for this problem it is not necessary, but it is better to know this one. And to find K, RC by R. RC means collector resistance, R means the feedback resistance in the feedback pair resistance you are having. 7.1 kilo ohm, 2.81. Okay, after this, even this is not required. You can just ignore. They are asking you how you are going to get the third resistance value, all those things you have to show like this. But as of now, it is not required. You can just strike it, or you can put it in a bracket. Just for extra understanding, I have given in this problem. It is not required for as per the question. As per the question, you just required K is equal to RC by R, and you have to find out C. So take out this equation, F is equal to 1 divided by 2 pi RC root of 6 plus 4K. I had told you 4K will be considered whenever RC and R value is given. In some cases, what happens is they'll not give this RC value, they'll not give this RC value. Then you have to take K is equal to 0 only. When RC value is not given, you cannot find K value. So during that time, you just consider K is equal to 0, and the formula becomes 1 divided by 2 pi RC root 6. If K value is given, take root 6 plus 4K, and K value, whatever you have got, that you have to substitute. 2.81 you have got, that you have to substitute here. So after that, just by rearranging them, you will be getting the capacitor value. C is equal to 539. That they're asking here, just asking the HFE value. So take this equation, substitute it, and tell HFE value should be greater than or equal to 44.56. Here they're not asking to comment on that. They're just asking to find HFE. So just find and keep it. In the next case, they find the value of R and C for any output frequency 1 kilohertz in RC phase shift. See, if this kind of a problem is asked where only frequency value is given, neither they have given R value, neither they have given C value, and they're asking both those value. They are not given both the values and they're asking both the values. See, two unknowns cannot be solved by taking a single equation. So during that time, what you have to do is you have to assume capacitor value, because usually we are not going to find, in majority of the cases we take capacitor value on an approximation. We'll take the capacitor value. We're not going to design the capacitor value exactly. We design resistance value properly, but capacitor value we take, we'll assume the capacitor value. So assume the capacitor value is 0.1 microfarad. Why 0.1 microfarad only is, the 0.1 microfarad is the standard capacitance value which we are going to assume for oscillators. So assume C is equal to 0.1 microfarad. Then you can ask me one more question. Why capacitor value you are assuming? Why not you would have assumed resistance value? So resistance value we cannot assume, because resistance is the one which is going to oppose. So the opposition we cannot assume. But this is the charge, the capacitor is the one which is going to store the charges. This we can assume. So assume capacitor value is 0.1 microfarad and find R value. After that, so yeah, here comes the problem what I told. In a phase shift oscillator RC, oscillator RC, this is actually R in the lower suffix C, 2.2 kilo ohm. C is equal to 0.22 microfarad. Determine the frequency of oscillation as certain whether the oscillation will start or not if the transistor has HF is equal to 200. So they are given HFE value and they are asking you to find to check whether oscillation will start or not. They're telling the transistor whatever they are using, its current gain is 200. HFE means beta. Beta means current gain of a transistor, and remember this current gain is fixed for a given transistor. It is decided while manufacturing only. So this current gain they have given it as 200 and they want to check whether it is going to produce oscillation or not. Before that we have to find the frequency. So to find the frequency we need to know what is K. K is equal to RC by R. Substitute it, we got it. After that use it in this equation, we get frequency is equal to 23.23 Hertz. Now we will take back the equation HFE greater than or equal to 4K plus 23 plus 29 by K. And we substitute it and we'll get HFE greater than or equal to 182.20. So now we came to know that the minimum requirement is 182.20, but actually we are having 200. So we are having greater than the required value. Obviously, the oscillation will start. So the minimum current gain is 182.20. Required current gain is 182.20. But we are having 200. Obviously, we are having greater than the required. So oscillation is going to start. That is what we can comment. Hence, oscillation will start. After that, it comes to Wien-Bridge oscillator. So they are given C1, C2 values 0.001 microfarad. R1 they have given, R2 is kept variable, and frequency is to be varied from 10 kilohertz to 60 kilohertz by varying R2. Find minimum and maximum value of R2. So they are asking two values of R because they are given two frequencies 10 kilohertz to 60 kilohertz. That means they want to keep on varying from 10 kilohertz to 60 kilohertz. So when they want to keep on varying, obviously they have to vary the resistance value. So in order to vary the resistance, in order to get variation in the frequency, they should get what is the minimum resistance and maximum resistance they should have. So they are given C1, C2 values common, but R2 is different. So we have to take two cases to find R2 value. The first case, consider F is equal to 10 kilohertz. And this is the formula, and you cannot take 1 by 2 pi RC because R2 is kept variable. R2 is kept variable means you cannot assume R1 and R2 are same. So that's why you have to take back this main equation R1, R2, C1, C2. So rearrange the equation for R2, substitute F is equal to 10 kilohertz, and you got R2 is equal to 25.33 kilo ohm. And next for second case for F is equal to 60 kilohertz, again the same thing, rearrange, you got R2 is equal to 704.33 ohm. So the minimum value is 704, the minimum value of R2 and the maximum value. That means whenever you want to get maximum frequency value, then your resistance value should be this one. So for the maximum value, you are going to get this one, and for the minimum, you are going to get this one. Sorry, this is the minimum value. So R2 is the minimum value to get this frequency, and R2 is this one, this much to get the maximum frequency value. After that, the next one is 555 timer and astable oscillator with IC triple. I'll just explain the 555 basic things and we'll stop today's class. So this is the last topic of this module. 555 timer and astable oscillator using 555. So 555 timer, it is one of the widely used IC to produce signals. Till now, whatever we have studied, it is the oscillators using discrete component. Discrete component means taking the component individually and arranging them. IC means integrated circuit. So everything is integrated. So we'll be having a single chip. Everything will be inbuilt inside it. So 555 timer device was first introduced by Signetics Corporation in early 1970. And the IC is highly stable device for generating accurate time delays and oscillation. You can generate time delays and oscillation. The IC available in 8 pin and also in 14 pin. There are two variants. One is 8 pin, other one is 14 pin. This 555 timer can provide time delays ranging from microseconds to hours. So time delays it can produce from microseconds to hours. Say time delays means square wave. So you have seen for flip flop and all, we want a clock signal. Say time, see, because any signal is always represented in terms of voltage versus time or current versus time. So along x-axis it will be time only. So that time you can vary to whatever extent you want. You want from a microsecond to hours, you can vary the signal. So that is what the delay ranging means. Here this is the 8-pin IC. It is an 8-pin IC. So the notch indicates that is the beginning of the numbering. Okay, first one is ground, triggering, output, reset, control voltage, threshold, discharge, VCC. So this ground and VCC, as usual, as we are doing in op amps, the same thing, plus VCC and minus VE. Triggering means in order to, because if the output has to change, automatically we have to give some input or some triggering pulse has to be given. That will be given at pin number 2. To get the output, we will collect at 3. And you want to reset it. It is working, it is generating some signal, and you want to reset it from the beginning. Then you have to give, enable this pin number 4. And this control voltage means, so whatever the voltage you are going to provide to different parts of the circuit which are used inside this. So we'll study in detail in further topics. And again, the threshold voltage means, see, I was telling it is going to produce a square wave and all. So there should be some threshold to convert from positive signal to negative signal, negative to positive. There should be some threshold. So that is this that is been given to the what is that threshold voltage that will be given to this pin number 6. After that, we are having discharge. So this 555 timer IC will be using some capacitors. So those capacitors will be charging in positive cycle and discharging in negative cycle. So that will be got at pin number 7. So this is the IC 555 timer the pin number configuration. It is an 8-pin IC we are taking. And its feature is 555 timer IC used to produce accurate and highly stable time delays. There are two things, two operating modes, monostable and astable. Say monostable means one, there are two, usually there will be two states, right? Positive and negative. So here monostable means one state will be stable, another state will be keep on fluctuating. One state will be stable means you can predict this is the that will be constant. And if it is, if you are designing the circuit in such a way that you want the positive state should be stable, the positive states will be stable without any fluctuation. The other state will be fluctuating. You cannot predict it. It might be positive or negative. Astable means it will be keep on changing. If now you get positive, next cycle you will get negative. After that, positive, positive, negative, positive, negative. It will be keep on changing. That's why astable. 555 tone can operate with voltage ranging from plus 5 to 18 volt and drive load up to 200 milliampere. It is compatible with TTL and CMOS logic circuit. TTL means transistor logic, and CMOS logic. See, this is what the motherboard. So whatever the ICs we use, so that the 555 timer, because it is mainly used to generate the clock signal and signals. So it has to be compatible with the motherboard. So which is the basic thing for any electronic device like TV or processor or anything. So it has to be compatible. So this is the technology we use, CMOS and TTL. So in CMOS technology, we'll study in module 2. Has very high temperature stability. So within this temperature also that is stable. Applications can be used as oscillator, linear ramp generator to generate a ramp, to generate pulse width modulated wave, BPM wave, frequency divider, automatic battery charger. So these are all the applications of 555